finding a lot of walls that we keep running into. And I hope that there are some solutions where it comes out that the answer is yes. And the excitement is yes, we want to do this. Whether those are state funding, whether those are local funding, but that's a bit of what I'm thinking about right now. I would like to hear an update about the Burlingame closings going on. I don't think I understand that there was a shift in how those closings were being managed, and that some additional external support has been participating in those closings, but I don't think we as a board have been brought up to speed on what that looks like, how that's functioning, how that additional assistance is able to, represent APCHA and APCHA's rules well through the process. So I would love to hear a bit more on that, please, from Matthew.
Thanks, Kelly. Peter.
I'm just looking forward to if during the director comments we could hear about the affidavits and the audits, but otherwise no comments. Thanks.
Thank you. John.
No comments tonight, sorry.
Ward.
Yeah, I'll be at the Western Housing in Carbondale tomorrow, and I think, Allison, maybe a good check-in would be after we attend that meeting to find out where we have overlapping, where we have coinciding efforts. And as far as funding, CAST, Housing Subcommittee that I've been attending, they're proposing some real estate transfer fee and also a vacancy tax that could both be coming up in the legislative session. And I read that Governor Polis already has introduced, or there is some action on the real estate transfer fee. So funding options are being, I think, at the state level, and be happy to coordinate with Kelly on our efforts. And we do have a lobbyists hired by the city that is looking after our interests in those city-specific regards. And I think that there is a retreat, our CAST meeting in Crescent Butte that John and I and Tori will all be at, and real estate transfer fees and funding will be part of that discussion as well. And we can report back on that.
Oh, Carson, I did want to congratulate Kelly and her fellow county commissioners on their vote, I guess just a couple days ago, on the Phillips Curve 73 units. That's a very positive development.
Agreed. Okay, and nothing from me today. So we will move to Executive Director updates. Matthew.
Well, we're moving right along tonight. Is Diane online?
Yes.
Okay, so Diane, at the end I might ask you to talk about the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition, if that works with you. But you don't have to say anything now, because Diane's been the one really spearheading that. Great. Yeah, the Burlingame closings, the city, with my permission, did move to taking those closings out, the actual sales, some of those outside the normal APCHA process, and that was just to make sure we got them done as quickly as possible. All the normal APCHA rules are being followed. The affidavit is being signed saying that you'll follow the APCHA rules and regulations. So it really is just moving that outside of APCHA a little bit, and that was just to make sure we got those done as quickly as possible, because there was a bit of a bottleneck, and that was the closing dates kept getting moved back based on the units coming online, so it was hard for us to schedule them, so there was a log jam. And so with the city of Aspen, they wanted to move that ahead to get it done as quickly as possible, and I said that was fine. So that's the simple answer for that. And it's not it was specifically for Burlingame 3. It's not something we envision having to happen in the future, but as we move back to normal, we should be, business as usual. Speaking of building game, I do have some numbers which I will email to everybody. Peter was
Can I
asking.
just ask for
Yeah.
a question for clarification?
Yes.
Please. Okay. I guess I'm wondering what was the process to approve those moving to closing? Because some of those units had, inspection resolution
That is a
issue.
that is a City of Aspen question on getting the punch lists done through the community development. Through that, we weren't involved in that. So Kelly, I'm sorry, I can't speak to that. But the City of Aspen, as the developer, was working with each individual owner on the punch lists and getting it ready for closing. So we weren't involved in that at all.
Okay, except for we have rules that prohibit moving to closing without resolution of
I
certain
think they were
elements.
resolved, and they're still, I think there are still, they were all in a acceptable enough position to, we weren't worried about that. But on the specific closings and getting everything worked out, that was the City of Aspen as the developer. But yeah, all the normal regulations have been followed. We just weren't actually doing the physical closings on some of those building game 3 units.
So just help me illustrate a little better, there's a broken window issue,
Yeah.
which we have rules that would prevent
Yeah.
a sale from going to closing without resolving that or having escrow or something. What did that look like in these, what did that type of situation look like?
That
for the
was
Burlingame?
resolved satisfactorily before we would do the sale. And
Matthew, I can also help address that if you'd like.
thanks, Diane.
So Kelly, what ended up happening was the owners would do the walkthroughs, and there was our asset team pulled everyone off of every project that was going on around the city and put them on Burlingame. So in addition to contractors and having the contractor on site, we also had our staff going in, and if it was a doorknob and these are tiny little punch list things that needed to be resolved, those were addressed. I will also tell you, they addressed things like someone called and said, there's beeping going on and we can't get it to stop. And so we sent a staff member over to turn off the dishwasher. So life safety was absolutely addressed and was addressed by our staff at the time that it happened. And then punch list stuff, I don't know what the status of paint or this little things like that aren't considered life safety. I don't know the issues, the update on that.
So who approved moving a sale that had life safety issues or just, they're not all life safety for our standards in APCHA, right? Our rules have a list of things that are, it's not excessive. It's not, we're not talking about cosmetic stuff here, but so who approved, the resolution of those things to a standard satisfactory enough to pass APCHA's rules and then go to a third-party broker?
So Kelly, I will say, as far as I understand, those issues that were life safety related were few and far between, very, very few and far between, right? Because the team has had lots of time to address, right? There were no broken windows or things like that. I don't actually know the answer to your specific question.
Okay, because there were some issues with windows. There were some issues with heating components and flooring and stuff, which is in APCHA's rules that we would not approve a sale without those reaching their satisfactory, a satisfactory condition.
Well, Kelly, I think there's a greater question here about right, like we're selling other properties, APCHA properties that don't meet those standards, but separate from the Burlingame issue.
No, I know, and now we have rules to prevent that. So I'm trying to figure out how our rules, to prevent an ordinary sale in APCHA inventory. I'm trying to understand how those rules interacted with these units and a third party broker, understanding those rules or how, so we can tag that for further clarity to for however that needs to come back. But I'm just not clear on how that, like, I want to make sure the integrity of our rules are extending to first time purchasers, not just simply a resale. So that's unclear to me how that integrity was being presented.
Kelly, I think it might be, were there any inspections before or when the properties were listed? Because typically APCHA, where APCHA catches these types of issues would be at the time of listing by the owner. There would be an inspection done. The inspection would identify items.
These were new units, so inspections were not done at that
because they were
point in
new
time.
units?
Because they were new
Okay.
units.
That's simply not true. People did do third-party inspections.
They
and
did.
They identified.
They
No, so-
opted to do
but-
them themselves.
But Kelly, what I'm saying is that because they were new units, the inspections weren't done prior to listing. And so the inspections were done after the property was under contract, and then the buyer did their own inspection. And that's how I think a lot of the issues were. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And to my knowledge, they were all addressed. If they ended up closing, I think prior to them being done, I'm sure that the city will make sure that everything is taken care of that was on their punch list, because they would normally do that. I believe they did that with BG2 and BG1 as well when they were done.
I know from the city council standpoint that we were all very supportive of the all hands on deck. Let's get this done. Let's do it right. Let's make sure that everybody it moves in as quickly as possible. And Matthew, I think, assured us that all of those issues were met prior to the closings. So all of those concerns, I think, have been met, and I want to thank the city and their staff for extraordinary efforts under some trying times.
In December.
Diane, do you want to talk about the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition while you have the floor?
Sure, absolutely. And sorry, I just got back from the dentist today, so I'm still a little bit numb. So if I sound super weird, sorry about that. What this is about is tomorrow at A.P.C.H.A, the West Mountain Regional Housing Coalition, which, as you know, is the local valley-wide nonprofit that is made up right now of local governments throughout the valley. CMC is one of the founding members, as RAFTA has recently joined the organization. And we got a grant called an IHOP grant, and I have no idea what it stands for, but it was a DOLA grant. And what we did was brought in a third party to look at different pieces of housing policy throughout the valley and across the different governments, and do evaluations of everything from how friendly is, everything from community development or planning policies to looking at what publicly owned available land might be out there for future development. It is a really good report. Is it absolutely perfect? I will say they did an amazing job for having to cover that many jurisdictions. Could I look at it and still say, oh, there are a couple things from an Aspen perspective that might not be perfect? Absolutely. But generally, it's a great report. And the purpose is, right, that may inform future policy decisions, funding priorities. It's really trying to take in that valley-wide look. It also provides a lot of background data and pulling kind of the most up-to-date background data. So, and the three major components are a rental market analysis, that land availability assessment, and current and planned what's current inventory for affordable housing and what's coming up in the near future. So really, it's kind of a baseline report for where the valley is cross jurisdiction. And I don't know if there's, Matthew, I know sent the whole board the invite, and I don't know if there's still availability, but we moved it to A.P.C.H.A from the 3rd Street Center to make room for more folks. And I heard last week, there were about 80 folks who had RSVP'd. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much, Diane. Sorry, I just lost my spot. I do have some breakdown. The board was asking where the Burlingame 3 winners came from, and I will send that out in email, but a little over 80% of them were from Aspen Snowmass, 6% from Basalt, 10% from Carbondale, and 3% from outside the Roaring Fork Valley. Nobody, interestingly, from the Glenwood area. So I'll email that to everybody now. But we did pull up all the winners and look at their addresses, their previous addresses, and figure out where they were coming from. So that's kind of interesting.
8% just Basalt.
Yeah, but I'll email everybody now. And then a couple other outstanding issues which the board was asking us to look at. We're still trying very hard to find the question of tax transcripts as opposed to tax returns. We're looking at per the board's request, and that's to add an extra layer of security when we're looking at people's applications. You can go into your own IRS.gov account and pull up your own transcript. We do want a way for us to pull them ourselves for added security. And so we've been talking to a number of vendors about that. We don't have a resolution yet because it's kind of a niche product. We've been talking to Equifax for a long time, but they have actually just decided they don't want to do that on an individual level anymore for people like us. So we're still trying very hard to find a way for us to be pulling tax transcript. And then we'd have to have a discussion with you guys about whether we do that to all applicants, just the winners, just sales applicants, and who we do that from. We're still working hard on that. We want to make sure we have a very secure application process.
Why wouldn't that just be part of your
Well, that's another way to
audit?
yeah.
Right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
we're just
Yeah.
confirming.
Right.
We're
I mean,
gonna
that would be
audit
another way to do
10
it.
people.
And I think it's, I think it should be done on, I think it makes sense to do it on everybody who completes a packet. And really the purpose is talk about security. I mean, it's just
You
making
do
sure
that for a loan, though? You don't do that when somebody comes in and borrows money from you.
on a mortgage. I think on mortgages generally they're pulling transcripts.
Never.
I think it varies, but I know we had a complaint at the end of last year that we were given some fake tax returns, and there was some investigation, and I think somebody backed out of contract. So
That was one out of how many, right? To me, that's when you pull on your audit, like you're going to audit somebody's file and
Well,
for the truth,
we'll
like, did they tell us the
see
truth?
what we can,
90%, 95% of the
we
time,
can
you're
have
going to be.
the policy discussion.
if there's a way to get it done where we could do it and it costs
Yeah.
$10-15 to do,
That's worthwhile.
I think it's not the first time we've seen it. We know it's happening. The comment out there is, we know you don't pull the transcript. And the reality is you give me 10 minutes, I can go to irs.gov and create a fake tax return showing you whatever you want to see. So
I think it's paramount that people are qualified before they enter the system, that those checks are made, and that comparisons of the packets filed with APCHA and what the IRS are real
Right.
numbers, because I'm not the only one that's been saying this for years. To get it right before they enter the system, once somebody is in the system and has possession, it's very difficult
yes.
to overturn.
And that, the tax record, that's the foundational document for everything else. So, if that's incorrect or anyway, that, that's very bad for us, and then
Think about the 70 Burlingame units you just pulled. You're going to verify 70 different
well, we're going to
buyers,
see
plus
what we can do.
everybody that applied in the lottery system over and above who didn't just get it. To me, it's an audit process, and even if they're in, now you've got a reason to kick them out. Like, hey, you were fraudulent in your return. We go through that process. We got a process in place to kick
Yeah, but
somebody
that's
out.
years.
Years, it's 6 months. It's less than that. How long does that process take on anybody that's non-compliant?
How long does it
I mean,
take to
but-
get
but-
somebody
but
to
Jim
go?
Mulcahy, it's gonna
so-
take
but-
forever, but you get somebody else, and they're like, yep, I was right.
Home away from him, it takes a long time.
You lied. I mean, we have a fraud addendum in all of our stuff, don't we? A fraud agreement.
We do.
It takes.
But
But you still have to go through the courts.
I
It
think-
isn't this time for this discussion. I just think that's
Yeah.
like a layer of.
I think the difference is you're
that's saying
talking
we don't
about
trust anybody.
10 minutes and $10 of 10 minutes of staff time, $10 up front, or Tom is more than,
Is it? I've never.
then you got to go through the courts, and I mean, it's just,
When we have a good idea of what services we can offer, we'll pull it back to you
the
guys.
services are, I mean, there's a number of people out there
Yeah.
that will do it, and it's, they'll give you your own platform, you plug in the information, it'll send out an email. The applicant acknowledges, yes, I allow APCHA to pull my transcript, done.
Yeah, I think the lottery winners, you could audit them before they close on it.
Yeah. Thank you for the update.
We're plugging away to see what we can do. And if part of that, it also occurred to us, the application fee has not been updated in a long time, so I think that would have to go to the board, right?
Because it's in the
Right.
regulations.
So the application fee is meant to reflect, a true cost of the process. So we're working with the finance department. It hasn't been looked at in a long time, so we're working with them to see what it actually maybe should be, and then we can have that discussion with you guys if it should be updated. Right now, it's
It's $50.
$50, yeah.
For
The
every
initial.
single year for ownership, and then 35 for requal for renters every 2 years.
And then the other thing the board wanted us to look at was the way if we want to, and what kind of email address we would put on the APCHA website, either contact you or you guys individually, or have a APCHA board at aspen.gov email address, which you would all have access to. I've been speaking to the city about the way they do that, and they're doing some research on the best ways to do it, and we'll be getting that back to you as well. So I just wanted to remind you that we're still working on that, and we're going to come up with a couple different options.
I just point out that if you have one email going to all people, you've got to be
Right.
very careful about open meetings.
And that's what, when I spoke to Jen Newton, that was, exactly what she said. She said it's not as simple as it might sound at first because of those implications as to what happens if, do you want to reply all capacity or not? Is this just one way? So the two of us are chatting, and we met last week, and she's doing a little bit more research for me because she's been working on it for the city, but we're trying to come up with that. And then also, the last meeting you guys mentioned making sure photos of the units are in all the listings. When we get those photos from the seller, so whenever possible, we use them. Sometimes we use our judgment not to post them if there are, if it's a bit of a mess or whatever. But whenever possible, we do put the photos on the listing. So I just wanted to let you know we are trying to do that. And then you, especially colleagues on the city council, you may start hearing some complaints about the laundry situation at Truscott. Just want to let you know about that. A lot of the machines have been out of service for quite a while, and we've called every company in the valley and down to Grand Junction, and we've had a number of them promise to come and look at them and not turn up. So it's been very frustrating for us as well. We've had a couple emails about it just this week. And they want to escalate the complaint, and so you guys might be hearing about it. But we really are trying to get anybody we can to come look at those machines. And we also have an RFP out to redo the whole laundry room. We have one bid on for that, so that's kind of a longer term solution, but it's very difficult right now to get.
Matthew, I thought we had a
people
budget item to replace those.
We do, and we've got a bid in for that, but just to even maintain what we have now, it's a real struggle. And we're trying everything.
Let's
we
get them
can, but it's not
replaced as soon
working.
as possible.
Yeah, we are. And the other thing, two other things, on Truscott, I also met yesterday with the engineering department in the city to redo that intersection. I don't know if you know, but we've had 2 APCHA employees and a resident hit by cars in the past year at that intersection. So I met with the engineering department yesterday, and in the spring they're gonna. Well, initially we're gonna try paint, because right now there are no markings on the road. That there's a stop sign, but there's nothing else.
That's
there.
T-connection.
Yeah. People come flying through it. So initially we're gonna try and shrink the lanes with paint, put in a hard paint stop, redo the stop sign, and also look at should the golf carts be zooming right in front of the cars, or should the golf carts be waiting? But that's a slightly different conversation. But it's a very dangerous intersection, and people. Before I moved to Aspen, I'd never met anybody hit by a car, and now I know a lot of them. It's dangerous. So we're trying to make the Truscott intersection a bit.
But we have
safe.
stop signs, but
We have-
those
we have
are fairly
We have a stop
perceived.
sign,
They don't stop.
and
Yeah.
we put in a little, last winter we put in a little 3-dimensional, what do you call that, little 3-dimensional stop sign?
Yeah.
Maddie,
Put a flashing red lights around
Yeah.
the stop signs.
Our pregnant person got hit.
yeah, Maddie was hit before Christmas.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's just ridiculous. So we're trying to work on that. And I think that's all I have. And I'll send you this chart on the Burlingame 3 winners, where they come from. Any?
Allison and then Kelly.
Thanks. I don't know how Kelly found the hand raise, because I wasn't seeing it on mine today. And I'm really only catching like every third word. So I guess I don't know if it's a mic issue or what, but it's a little hard to hear. Matthew, is that laundry like lucrative enough, if it was working, that we would ever consider contracting that out to a third party laundry operator?
It is contracted out to a third-party
Got it.
operator. Yeah, it is, and we're also looking at increasing. It's a real bargain, which we're looking at increasing that a little bit as well. But it is contracted out for the but not the servicing. So we're still trying to get someone in to service it. So it's a frustrating situation which we're working on.
The operator is not in charge of
Right.
maintaining the laundry.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, we could make them pay a little more and tell them that's on them now.
This is a similar situation to what elevator inspections are. We in Aspen are members of NWCOG, and they guarantee that you get elevator inspections. And if we weren't a member of NWCOG, we couldn't get people up here to inspect the elevators. And it's the same thing with the washing machines. And I think there was a wash at North Mill Plaza that I think they shut down. You can't go to a public laundromat in town anymore.
We've called down to Grand Junction. We've been all over the place. But I know it's frustrating for residents, but all I can do is assure them we're doing everything we can, both for the short term and long term.
Kelly?
This is a bit of a pivot, but I'm curious as to what is going on with the 137 Woody Creek Plaza unit, because there's a lot of people who have passed that unit up, and I'm curious if this is one of those candidates for
We're working on the last
our
person right now.
intervention.
We're working on the last person right now. Pam took the last person that bid this last go around to look at the unit. It is an expensive unit for a mobile home.
Well, yeah, what's the story with it? Is it just because it's small and expensive, or is there?
It's
work
small
that
and
needs to be done?
expensive. And if somebody wanted to actually replace it, they'd be they would be way over the maximum amount for category 5,
Is it
single-family
dated and
home.
need replaced, or is it?
Well, I have not been in it. It's definitely livable, but most people probably want to put something a little bit bigger, because I believe it's a 2-bedroom. I'm not sure if it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Yeah. A mobile home that's on that property. So, we're still working through the list that we have right now. And if we don't get any takers, I know that they did decrease the price. I do know that somebody might be interested, but we had to go to the last person before. Somebody might want to still try to work with the family. The person who owned it passed away, so we're working with their family on this unit. So, but we're still working on it.
And the one thing I did miss was you also had affidavits. So anybody who didn't complete their affidavit, their biannual affidavit, has been turned over to Jackie to do an audit. So as I mentioned in the last meeting, we're just folding the two processes together. So they'll be getting an audit which has, has all the legal teeth of the normal audit process. So they'll be getting an email from Jackie very soon saying you are being audited for cause based on your fact that you didn't do the biannual affidavit.
Great.
That's 137.
Did I miss anything? Anything else?
I think the only question was Peter asked about just kind of how are the audits going with.
Oh. You wanna
Do that, I
Jackie's so shy. We've completed 78 since July 24th. 96%, that's 74 of them, were completely in compliance. And the 4 other ones we are following up with. And we'll be following up with them in January. And that isn't to say that they are out of compliance. It just means we haven't completely closed it off. So Jackie's going to be following up with them now. So 96 fully compliant since we started
96%.
this. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Cindy, signing up for notifications, available rental and sale units.
We will have 2 Lone Pine units that will be coming up for sale this Friday, so definitely sign up for notifications. We still have some rental units available, so again, sign up for notifications. I also want to remind everybody that February 1st is coming up. We will start requiring 2023 documentation beginning February 1st, like your W-2s, 1099s. We do not require the income tax return yet because it doesn't have to be done until around April 15th. But we require all the W-2s, an end-of-year profit and loss statement if you're self-employed, things like that. If you're bidding and your packet's updated, you still need to provide that information beginning February 1. And we'll have that reminder on our website as well.
Cindy, are those Lone Pines, are those becoming vacant because people have moved out, or are they moving within the system or moving out of the system?
One of one of them is because the owner passed away. The other one, Pam always keeps those records. We should provide those records to you, because when somebody lists a unit, they put down on the form why they're leaving, whether they've won something else or they're leaving the valley going to family or something like that. So I'm not sure about the other one.
74 BG3s for sale, and 80% of those within the Aspen area. There must be some of the units that are in our system now
Yes.
that are opening up for
We have
resale.
resales coming up as well. Yeah, we're busy. And there are 4 or 5 more BG3 units that we will start to advertise the first week of February, we believe. So there's still a couple left.
And those are the recategorized ones?
Yes, yep.
Okay. All right, we'll move to the consent calendar. Just one item, minutes of the December 13th, 2023 regular meeting. Any amendments or a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
A motion to approve from John Ward,
A second.
second from Ward. And any discussion?
That's a little confusing, but
Right, John Ward and Ward. And then if no discussion, it's a roll call vote.
Okay. Ward,
yes.
Carson,
Yes.
John,
Yes, ma'am.
Allison,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along to discussion of policy changes, recommendations to the pilot grant program. And we've got Liz.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. Can you let me?
Hi, Liz.
Hi. That's on. Okay. Sweet. All right. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the Essential Repair Pilot Grant Program. First, I'm just going to provide an update about how it's going, the applications we've received and approved and denied. And then after that, I'm going to move into some policy recommendations we have now that we've been conducting this program since October now. We've learned a lot. It's still an ongoing program as we've only allocated around half of the funds so far as well, and which is still good because it's sometimes repairs pop up on a rolling basis as well. So that way we've been able to keep applications going since October as well. And so the recommendations I have today are really they're bigger program changes, which is why we're looking for board support if we're going to make these changes. And since this program isn't in our regulations or anything, all we're looking for is majority board support or approval to make those policy changes. And if we decide to make them, we can go make those changes immediately as we're accepting applications. And the goal is after today to do another bigger program rollout, get it on the website, send out another notification to owners. So first, let's dive into the applications that we've received. So we've received 58 applications in total right now. As you can see, a majority of these, around a third, have been from Category 3 and 20% Category 2, and then the last 10% is Category 1. So mostly Category 3 owners, which makes sense since there are way more Category 3 units compared to the other category of units as well. And most of the Category 1 owners have been people in higher category units who are now retired on fixed incomes in those types of situations. And we've been able to approve 24 of these applications, and 3 of the repairs have been completed so far. Right now, we've sent out 2 grants so far, just because with the current program, we don't provide grant funding until they've completed the repair and fully paid for it. The third person right now, they're just finishing some paperwork, and then we'll be able to get their grant to them. So, and the most common repair that we've been able to approve has been for windows. That's windows that have been in the unit since it was built. They just need to be replaced. They're leaking. There's mold, condensation buildup. They need to be up to code to be environmentally appropriate. And so, as I said, we're almost at around half of funding allocated. And right now, grants for estimation, this is based off repair estimates, are around $7,500 per owner that have applied. And repairs that are being submitted right now are around, the average cost of those are around $13,000 for the repairs we're seeing. And it just varies by the type of repair for how much it costs. And the main reason a lot of these approved applications aren't receiving their funding yet is because things like windows, they're going to have to wait till spring to actually make that repair. So we're just getting repair dates from them. And then I would estimate by May 2024, most of these repairs will have been made, and we'll be able to actually send out grant funding around then.
Could I ask a question? You know, most of them are windows. Do the applicants, are they able to share information about who the contractors are that are willing to come up and do windows, and perhaps coordinate to have them come up and replace a bunch of windows in one trip? Or because, you know, with washing machines, with elevators, it's hard to get people up here to do that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I know everyone who's doing the repairs just because I'm seeing all the repair quotes and invoices coming in. And I would say most people are going to the same contractor. We haven't taken any steps to actually be on a side where we're going to be organizing that, just because we had decided it was best if APCHA wasn't recommending any contractors as of now. But I have directed people to, CORE has a list of contractors that they recommend, and I have directed them to that list as well.
And would you share who the contractors are that have accepted?
Yeah, I would definitely, especially just a list, and then it's in their hands to choose which contractor to go with.
That was definitely something we were trying to flush out during this process, is who was actually doing the work and building a stable. And you know, as we get a better idea, we can share that information in a better way. But,
because I, for one, I have a need.
Well, the CORE list is really great, actually. So I would definitely recommend checking out the list of contractors they have. So we don't necessarily need to rebuild the wheel on that one either. But I am looking at and taking note of who people are going to, especially for things like windows, where it's a very common repair. And I've seen it where some people get a quote from one contractor and it's extremely high, that they go to a different contractor and it's much more reasonable as well. So I've also flagged that and been like, oh, really? Like that much for that repair? And then they've been able to get a different quote after that. So, yeah. Any other questions about approved applications? Otherwise, okay. And then we've denied 30 applications, 4 are currently under review, just because we're waiting for final paperwork for them. People have 2 weeks to turn in their qualification paperwork after applying. So the most common reason that we've denied applications is just because people submit a repair application, they don't submit a quote, or they're just very vague about what they need repaired, so we can't approve those. And after that, it's just people who aren't turning in their qualification paperwork. And so, of course, in those instances, I'm letting them know, please reapply when you have a proper application. And so since we implemented the program, we did start requiring repair quotes, and that's really strengthened the applications we've gotten. So then everyone understands exactly what they're asking for. Because we got it, at first it was, well, there's this like noise in my home. And it's like, we actually want to know what the problem is and what the solution is, so that way we know if we can accept that grant request or not.
I would love to see how the actual delivered product compared to the quote.
Yeah, I'm keeping track of that as well. And right now it's because we've only had 3 actually complete the circle, but I am keeping track. Though I think all 3 of those people ended up costing less actually for the final repair. So that was a unique situation though, I think. So that's, except for one of them, I think maybe it was right what they had quoted it at because it was a new hot water heater. So it was just a price tag on it. Yeah.
Yeah, when the city contracts, so you always wind up over.
Yeah. So we'll see. I would, especially right now, we're still so early in this program. So as we are actually sending out funding by late spring, summer, we'll have a more well-rounded idea and impact evaluation of the program. Right now, it's all we can give is a summary of here's what we're getting in right now. And hopefully with some policy changes, we can make the program work better for our goals and owner goals as well. So
looks like Peter has a question.
Yes, thanks so much. I was just curious, is this an opportunity to update deed restrictions? Great.
That's part of it.
Yeah, they have to have an updated deed restriction.
Yeah, so we are making sure that people are under updated deed restrictions in the case that they're under a deed restriction that doesn't fully align with the current APCHA deed restriction. So that has happened already a couple times where we've let people know they need to update their deed restriction to be qualified for the program. And we have successfully updated couple so far.
Great.
I can't
Great,
not,
thank you.
I can't not point out that 10% of the denials are because they're not APCHA owners.
Yeah, in those people, in their
Try.
in their
The
defenses,
answer's always no unless you
Yeah.
ask the question.
like
Sorry.
no, in their defense, I think 2 of them were deed restricted units, just not in the APCHA program. So I think they were confused, but one of them was a free market unit, and yeah, so.
Wayne
We're
Gretzky's
checking.
father said 100% of the shots you don't take won't go in.
Exactly, but shows that, we're not letting anyone through that's not an APCHA owner. So
Good to see.
yeah,
That was a Michael Jordan quote, by the way.
I heard it as a Wayne Gretzky's father said that.
okay. So next, let's move into some policy changes and recommendations we have for the program. So I'm just gonna go at them one at a time, and then have space for questions, discussion, and at the end of each item, which there's 4 of them, see if there's board support to make this change to the program, which we would implement immediately after tonight. So the first policy recommendation is to condense and update our eligible repairs list. So on the left side, we have the original list that was approved, and now our recommended updated list. And the reason for this, so this updated list still has all of the repairs that we've approved. It's still includes all of those. And it just helps for staff on the approval side. For when we get an application, we can clearly say, yes, this is eligible or not. And a lot of the ones that we've taken off the original list, we just haven't received applications for as well. So it's just more to help applicants understand that they are eligible for the program. And then when we receive the application, we're like, okay, it falls right into this category, yes or no. We've just found flooring hazards, sometimes things like that. There's more debate in the approval process. So we'd like to really stick to these are the essential repairs.
So you're saying septic and heat, it just hasn't come up, but
It hasn't.
you do find those as valid reasons?
Yeah, it has not come up. We haven't seen anything like that, or it's been just so vague that sometimes it ends up falling into a different category. And I think with this program too, of course, if we get an application in that is still an essential repair, maybe not specifically on this list, staff can discuss it on a case-by-case basis. So it's not completely comprehensive, but a condensed list would just help staff through this approval and application review process.
So that would just be the public list, like this is the kind of thing, but we're not actually, saying.
Well, it's like a drop down or a checkbox, right?
Right.
So if you are going
Right.
for one of those things and it's not an option, then even if it secretly is, you wouldn't know that. Those 2 just seem a little more important to me, but I appreciate the consolidation and hoping people still could throw those into like plumbing or furnace if you end up being heated that way, so as to not skip some of like those actually seem like emergencies to me.
Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking like septic rolls into plumbing.
Yeah,
Right.
probably. And we haven't seen anything related to septic system issues.
Kelly?
Help me understand the removal of ceiling repairs, because it seems like that would be as important.
I would say for ceiling repairs, that might end up going into plumbing or leaks, because I've found any time where someone needs a repair to their ceiling, it's related to a leak that has wrecked the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a drywall repair related to a leak.
And the leak needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and so so that's why plumbing and leak it's a bigger category actually.
I don't know. I guess I'd wonder. So if the carpet is ruined because of a plumbing leak, like, what's the scope of repair related to a plumbing problem that would be covered?
So are you saying if there's a plumbing leak, are we covering also if the carpet got destroyed through that process?
I'm just throwing that out as an example. If there's a clearer way to understand, like, what would the full scope of an acceptable request relating to a plumbing issue be?
Well, I would say it does depend on the circumstances. For the most part, plumbing and leaks are always going to qualify because it's actively destroying the home. So in that case, but for that repair, we'd really be more looking at the source of the problem. So approving the repair of the leak and any of the circumstances that resulted that make the property unlivable. So like maybe if it did destroy your floor, we could loop that into the whole repair, versus when we've gotten repairs though that are just people looking to replace their carpeting, we've denied those.
And depending on the size of the leak and the destruction, I mean, that might be a homeowner's insurance claim as well.
Mm-hmm. Which we have been asking people if they're making homeowners insurance claims.
Yeah. Peter.
Yes, thank you. Maybe this was covered when the program was presented earlier, but how are we differentiating between what's an HOA typical repair, just thinking of the windows and some of the mechanical systems, versus the homeowner? And, you know, in light of us having this capital reserves study done, are we overlapping with what is HOA responsibility?
We are not. So any repairs that are the responsibility of the HOA capital reserves are not eligible. And we have been checking for that. So when an applicant submits a repair request for a boiler replacement, we've always been checking to make sure that it's individual unit versus covered by multiple units. There's also been a few cases where we've double checked what HOA dues and that specific HOA go towards as well. And so windows usually qualify because those are the responsibility of the individual owner of the unit.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see there are 3 denials for common area repairs.
Yeah, so we have received quite a few of those. And I think there was also some other ones that ended up getting lumped into the unverified applicants because they submitted an HOA repair but then were never verified. And yeah, so that as well. Any other questions about this list? And Kelly, did I answer your question fully as well?
Sorry. Not completely. I mean, I do think this is one of the ways that, you know, just the clearer we are,
Mm-hmm.
the clearer the criteria is, the greater transparency we put into the program. And that's, you know, one of our overarching mission goals. So if there's a way, you know, to include that, then, you know, then we should.
Yeah. Maybe we can talk about it a little bit more after today's meeting, because after this we'll have to update some of the program guidelines as well. So, because it's helpful on our end too to make sure we have as clear as possible cutoffs for approving and denying.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it can be plumbing leaks and associated disrepair,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or something.
Yeah.
I mean, making it less granular doesn't make it clearer.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody, when they apply for something and, well, it's under plumbing, and you're like, well, not really.
Yeah.
And here's why, and you know they're going to argue with it.
Definitely. I think one of the things we were trying to get at with that one too is ceiling repairs, instead of like someone being like, well, I've had this hole in my ceiling for however many years, versus.
Some of this was like life safety and efficiency, wasn't it? That was the goal.
It's supposed to be all about, essential to the health and safety of the home, and yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions or thoughts?
Are you going to cover the including category 4s?
Yeah, so I'm going to do it one at a time, if that way. So do we have board support in updating our eligible repairs list? Yes.
Yeah.
I think
Leave it up to the staff to discern.
Okay. Great. So then the other next recommendation for discussion is expanding to category 4. And in this case, we would still require a match at 30%. That is the same amount of match that category 3 owners are required to make as well. And the main reason that we are recommending this is, first off, there are a lot of instances where there are applicants who now make category 4 income, so they don't qualify, but they actually live in a lower category unit. So from that side, we would be investing in that unit itself, because eventually maybe they'll resell and it'll be sold at that original category. So we found that circumstance. Along with that, with repairs costing around $1,300 on average, and category 3 maximum income for a single person is $104,000. For a household of 4, it's $148,000. We think that there's a case that repairs can still be expensive for category 4 owners, and especially when we're seeing window replacements costing $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 as well. And it would significantly open up the pool of eligible applicants, which we were aware of. So there are around 265 category 3 units, around 541 category 4 units. But on that side also, they still have to be an essential repair to the health and safety of the home. So we'd still be helping category 4 owners with those situations. And just looking back at the program goal, we're looking to invest in the longevity of homes in the inventory. And so we believe expanding to category 4 would support that. But love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, in my notes I put, why not a 40% match? And your category 4. Mm-hmm. Curious what the rest of the board feels about.
Your first bullet point is the exact reason not to do it, right? They get a category 1 unit. Now you've earned your way into another level, but you got the benefit to buy, in theory, a less expensive unit. You haven't right-sized or moved up to the next level, but your income level now has. So you, in theory, you should have more dispensable income, mm-hmm. or disposable income, right?
Liz, can you just clarify, are you talking about expanding to category 4 units or category 4 people?
Category 4 people. So for the program, it's all based on income.
So it would not, if you live in a category 4 and make whatever, you're not eligible.
Yeah, if you live in a category 4 and you make category 5 income, you would not be eligible.
Or category 1.
Yeah. or yeah.
No, category 1 income you would be.
Yes, category. So you still have to be category 1 through 4 income, but it's not based on category of unit. Except RO is still uneligible too.
Yeah. But category 4s with a Cat 1 income is eligible.
Yes.
Cat 3 with a Cat 4 income
not
would
eligible.
Be if we pass this.
Yeah, so that's where it's happened the most. When, like, the few applicants we've received that we denied that were category 4 income, they all lived in category 3 or 2 units.
And we're not hearing from people who are under earning for their category. Like they have more expensive houses but don't earn as much.
Well, yeah, we've seen those as well, but they've all qualified. Like people who have retired but are now in category, like higher category units, yeah.
Sorry, John, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I have another question, but I just wanted to clarify that while I was understanding your comments.
No, I was done. Sorry.
Oh, okay. If we're expanding who is eligible, I do wonder, and it ties into our conversation later today and the slide prior, if there's a way to open this to condos specifically a little bit more, because I think you do have a lot of people, Cat 3 or lower, who have broken windows, who have leaking pipes, but that is an HOA responsibility. Because, when all of that stuff is shared, but I wonder if it's just your window in a condo, if we would have wiggle room since we haven't been drained of these, or there's like a leak in from one apartment to the next, helping those two people kind of make it through without draining the HOA. Like there's a little bit of wiggle room. I don't know how the board feels or how that would work. Because it's not, we're not trying to build out HOA capital reserves right now, but that is a group that you are missing in some of these. I mean, Benedict Commons has been without heat at least once a week this entire winter. Like I wonder if there's some, I don't know how to expand that, but that is what came to mind.
I still have a problem with the 40%, 30%. Somebody's in a category 3, now they're making a category 4 income. Their payments, their housing expenses are a lower percentage of their AMI. They're paying a lower percentage of their AMI for the same repairs that somebody that is in a category 3 and still making a category 3 income. So for me, I see it as it's an inequity or an equity issue that you're getting preferential treatment by paying a lower percentage because you're a higher category earner now than you were when you purchased it.
Well, I'm 100% on board that their equity piece or their share should be higher.
Okay.
But I also, I mean, like I said, that first bullet point's a reason why not to include them in it to me.
Yeah.
It's the same thing you're talking about. They're in theory, they're in a more affordable unit when they got in, and now they've earned, which we all hope to do, got raises, whatever else. But so they should give back. They should put into their unit kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So
it's not as tight for them, I guess is kind of the word.
I want to go to Kelly real quick. She's had her hand up for a while.
Thanks. I just, I'm okay with a higher share for this. And, I feel like my board's intention was to spend the money and help get these repairs, get the units in better condition. So that's how I think about this slide. I am wondering, I think there is an inequity sometimes with the RO units, because you have RO units with people who may be category 3, and those units ostensibly have expensive repairs. So I would be interested in expanding this to sort of that profile of person.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, right now we have RO units are not eligible regardless of the owner's category. And also, I think it would be completely fine if majority of board agrees to up the match requirement if we were to accept category 4 applications.
I guess that's my question too. Kelly brings up a good point.
Yeah, I just would illustrate, like, sometimes, like a Lazy Glen unit that wasn't in great standard, it was people at all income levels are able to bid on those, right? It's not just limited to, so you have these older units that didn't cost a lot that are in need of repair, and people living in them who don't have RO income.
Well, I mean,
so
that was my question too, is when we did this program, I guess I didn't realize it was income based and not housing category based. And so if you're gonna, raise the income category to category 4, it doesn't matter the property you own. It should be whatever your income level is qualifies you for it, your income category. Right? I mean, that's essentially what Kelly's saying too.
So if you have an RO, maybe you pay 60%.
No,
you can still get
why would you change it anywhere the income? Like
if you're a category 3, but now your income is out of category, and you want to make repairs.
Well, then you wouldn't qualify.
No, if you're like we're saying, if you're a category 3 buyer of an RO unit, you should pay the category 3 equity piece, the 30%. If you're a category 4 unit and you're a category 2, you should still pay the 40%, right? So it should all be income based and not housing category or, property category specific. Because I thought, and maybe I misunderstood when we approved the program, but I thought we were going to be category specific to the housing, to the unit that we were repairing.
But only category 1 through 3 qualify. Only
Right,
category 1 through 3 units qualify.
but it was based on income.
Right.
Category 4 units would qualify as well. It's the income of the person
Right.
that we look at. The thing with Lazy Glen is and Aspen Village would be in the same boat, is some of these mobile homes are 1965. Does it make sense to put the money into these when it's a mobile home, excuse me, that really needs to be absolutely replaced? That's one of the reasons why we didn't really include Lazy Glen or Aspen Village. Plus, there's no cap on the appreciation on these, so they can sell for whatever the market will bear on those units as well. And that was another reason why we didn't really put in the Aspen Village or Woody Creek or Lazy Glen either. And we were even considering Woody Creek because of that way as well, because there's mobile homes there that are 1965.
Yeah, but a lot of these repairs were living safety, I wouldn't
Yeah.
call them life safety, but it was like water heater. Well, water heater costs what a water heater costs. I don't have hot water. I'd really like to have it. Can you help me? To me, those kind of repairs, yeah, there's a lot of mobile homes throughout this valley that have outlived their life. They're useful, but they've outlived their entitled lifespan, right? Or their intended lifespan. To me, I don't think you limit these micro repairs essentially to bullet point number 3 here to just because it's an old mobile home.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
So that would be a policy change for us to look at.
That's coming in a
Yeah.
few slides to discuss mobile homes.
Yes.
But
Yeah, but
No, it's
water heater is part of normal maintenance. It
A
shouldn't
lot of
be an
these are part of
emergency. repair.
windows are part of normal maintenance, but we're replacing a lot of windows.
Back to the categories, but only category 1 through 3 units are eligible for this, regardless of.
Income.
Category
Income.
1 through
Yeah.
3,
Income.
people. So it follows the people, not the unit.
Yeah, so it's based on your last year's income. And the reason the board decided to do that, it was in lieu of, because any types of mean testing. So it's seeing what this person can afford right now. So based off last year's income. And so it supports people in higher category units who maybe are category 1
I
now.
thought we were talking about category 1 through 3 units.
Because if you're tallying up, I would also be fine with 40% for the Cat 4 expansion.
Okay.
But I don't think it should be unit category. I mean, we're getting really granular, but unit category specific. If we're going to limit it to income, it should be income of the buyer regardless of the category of the unit they're in.
Right.
And so then you're saying RO would be because
Sure, if you-
because it doesn't matter right now
You're
the
a
unit
retiree
category.
that's living in a North 40 unit, right? And you're living off a fixed income and something, whatever happens, and you can't afford to fix it, but your income category might be category 2 at that point, right?
So an RO will qualify for a repair and they only have to pay 20%
Oh, they
down.
should repay wherever their category is.
But
at
if
that
they're,
point.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, an RO's unit.
Yeah, if they're
owner.
category 2, they'd pay 20%. Yeah.
Right.
So my understanding is it is by the person's income category, and then probably the next slide is where we're going to get to. But what do we do about mobile homes, right?
Actually, mobile homes in 2.
Okay.
Sorry, I know I could skip if we're really ready to talk about it.
I mean,
I-
it really isn't about the category of the home, except for this one phrase where we say but not RO.
Yeah.
But I think it's because RO is mobile home for the most part, and I think we address all of what everyone's saying right now as long as we make it clear that it's freestanding ROs, not mobile home ROs, unless we do want to say but interior life safety mobile homes even over 30 years qualify. I mean, it kind of needs its own program.
Yeah. So would it work for everyone right now if we make a decision about the category 4 owners and then finalize the RO discussion on the mobile home slide? Since that seems more applicable to the mobile homes.
So we're confused the same way. Right.
Okay. So
Question, how would this change affect people who've been rejected?
I would reach out to them and let them know they can reapply. It's only a couple people, so everyone's welcome to reapply after being denied. It's
You don't hold any grudges?
Yeah. Well, if they, if it's something like they didn't have a repair quote, it's like, all right, try again with a repair quote. That's fine. If you're still not an APCHA owner, you're probably going to get denied again, but that's all right.
So just sort of, I think I'm hearing that I'm hearing support to expand to Category 4.
With a 40% match instead?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, let's move on then.
One more thing.
Go ahead.
You said a common reason for denying an application was because people didn't get their work in within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Is there any consideration for loosening up that time frame?
Yeah, it has been. Sometimes when I've reached out to someone, they're like, "Oh, I turn it in right now," and it's fine because otherwise I've told them just to reapply. So if they have it ready, then it's okay. Yeah. So and again, like if they do get denied, just submit another application and turn it in. It's just to keep things moving, really, and that way we don't have this application sitting in review for 2 months.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So I'll move on to our other recommendation is, and so I want to emphasize, so in the memo I had said all units, but actually we're going to say all category units. And so this would assist owners of any category income unit if they have a repair come up that's extremely high cost and emergency, so like a $20,000 service or water line burst come up and it's extremely expensive in this case, they would be eligible for the program. So this would just be basically then Category 5 owners would also be eligible. And part of the reason there's no match is because sometimes the match hasn't been super relevant with extremely high cost repairs, but also in this case when it's a $20-something thousand repair, $25,000 repair, those people could really use the assistance. And especially when it comes up in an emergency, and we've had the case come up where there was a higher category owner who had a service line break and it's costing probably $20,000 to $25,000. So we're looking
out of pocket after insurance, or what do you mean it's cost?
In this case, so insurance does vary, and I'm going to, with those people, of course, I'm going to check. I'm asking about what their home insurance is covering, but it really does depend on the insurance and the situation whether or not homeowners insurance kicks in too. I mean, I would say also people that have applied for this program, their homeowners insurance hasn't covered the repairs. There's only been like one case out of the 50, or I guess out of the, one case where I saw it, yeah.
I mean, your two examples, roof and boiler, those are 20, 30-year useful life pieces of equipment. To me, that they shouldn't be an emergency.
Right.
Right?
I get it, yeah, and those were two of the ones that also I saw pop up where it is costing
those are
amounts.
expensive replacements, right? The 20 is probably cheap for a roof.
Yeah, for a roof
is
it's much more.
52. I can tell you one's 2 years old is 52,000.
But so we're seeing how this program can assist higher income owners with those extremely high cost repairs.
Do you also check I'm trying to think of why a water main would burst and it wouldn't be covered by insurance, but I wonder what do we do when it's actually neglect? You went away for a month and didn't have your heat up high enough, and so your
water
pipes
main's
froze.
usually out in your, like underneath your driveway or wherever it is. It's away from your property.
Mm-hmm.
But insurance typically does not cover that, I think, if I remember correctly.
In this case, I believe the owner was responsible. And I mean, it's hard for us, or as a review team, as individuals, to check
really
for neglect.
It's buried. It's water coming into your house, something happens.
In this-
Sewer line, same thing.
Yeah.
I would never call that neglect. Nobody ever thinks of
Yeah,
those
in this
things.
case, she just said she's noticed water pooling up. They went and checked
Roots
it.
run through lines, whatever else, and eventually.
I would be okay with those types of emergency, unforeseen. I would be okay with supporting those, but the roof and boiler, I mean,
Okay.
like you say, I mean, those are things that, those are things that are not
You should be
You,
planning.
you should be
for it.
planning for those.
So if others,
Yeah.
other board members agree, we just make sure that it's only eligible in those cases where it's this emergency repair that pops up. So it's
Yeah,
not
I
like your
agree.
roof is this old.
An emergency is not my boiler stopped working.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of is when it's cold,
Well,
but
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, but to replace, right? Maybe the repair can be an emergency, but not
system replacement.
But
the full system replacement.
things more in the nature of this like service line burst where
Right.
all of a sudden it happens. There's not a lot in your control. Okay.
And I would add, I would say like construction defect type things. You know, I would think those, you know, those could be unforeseen, right? Where something was installed incorrectly and it's been leaking for 10 years. I mean, that to me would be like, and so then the roof had to be replaced. To me, that would be different than a roof that just is 25 or 30 years old and at the end of its useful life.
Okay, so we have the unforeseen emergency repairs pop up, but then construction defects. Do other board members agree that that would fit the scope?
I'm okay with construction. I mean, those are the unknowns.
Can I jump in here?
Please.
Liz, your mic seems to be the one that I'm hearing most clearly through. So can you give a summary of the discussion that just took place between the board members in the room? Because it was very choppy.
Yeah, definitely. So right now it seems like most of the board in the room right now supports this decision, but they would like to keep it narrowed to truly things like, for the example of water main service line burst, these unforeseen emergency, extremely high cost repairs versus things like roof or boilers wouldn't really count because those are repairs that build up over time that you can check and you need to repair. And also there was a recommendation to also add construction defects into the eligible thing. So for example, there's a construction defect on your roof that's resulting in this leak buildup over multiple years. Does that cover, you think, the conversation? Okay.
I think, Kelly, the idea is to try and fund things that are truly unforeseen and emergencies, that rather than things that are that should be planned for and replaced based on their useful life.
If we're opening it up to everybody, it does seem to me would make sense for some category earner to pay $5,000 or something, like it'd be the erasing any ownership whatsoever is a little odd to me, being that we're not even asking that of Cat 1 people when they have equivalent, ratio repairs that they are going through. The second thing is I just don't quite understand the logistics of if it's an emergency and it has to happen right now. They're calling and finding out the quote. They're going online and filling out a Google form and hoping that, APCHA staff approves them quickly. I think getting it done out of pocket and then being reimbursed. What's like when it's this much of like if your house is unlivable, if you're swamped in or whatever, what does that look like for the application?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, people, regardless, even though it says match not required, they still have to pay whatever the $10,000 doesn't cover. So that's a minimum, another $10,000. But we could, if it makes sense, to still just keep the current match as well. And secondly, so people in these instances, they're usually having to take out some type of loan. So we're still able to reimburse, but I've usually people that have applied that can't afford the upfront costs. I haven't actually received that much feedback about people having a hard time doing that as well.
I think that's a good point. Is these are big repairs, right? And so there is a match required because our program goes to $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with the average cost right now, I think you told us a couple slides ago being 14 or 13. That means the average out of pocket has been 3 to 4 for the applicants.
Yeah, average. But on this slide, I mean, it only opens up to those the Category 5 owners in the case that it's a $20,000 plus repair.
And they would, if a Cat 1 person has a $20,000 plus repair and a Cat 5, both of them would incur the exact same out-of-pocket cost.
Yeah, since the max is $10,000.
I mean, ultimately, that last bullet point I think is important. It's, you know, you're protecting program assets eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the water issue we're talking about, right? You turn the water main off at the street or somewhere along the way. The asset's protected. You're not getting somebody there overnight. It's probably taken a week to get somebody to your house. So either you're living without water or you're making other accommodations, right?
I'm supportive of this.
Okay. With taking out the roof and boiler replacements.
Right.
And
I mean, keeping it narrow to things that are, as you listed, emergency, unforeseen, and high cost.
Yeah. And in future reports, we can definitely let you know how many of those have come up too. So. All right. Well, if majority support, then we can move on to the last recommendation. Okay. So this has to do with our conversation from before, and it already seems like we have some mixed ideas about it. And so what we are proposing is that basically mobile homes aren't completely eligible for the program. So the first part of that must be fixed to the land. So that's just the making sure that modular homes are eligible, making that distinction. And then secondly, if it is a mobile home, it needs to be less than 15 years old. The reason we're saying this is, as Cindy kind of alluded to earlier, is a lot of mobile homes in the APCHA inventory are really old. I mean, the lifespan of a mobile home that's taken care of is around 30 to 50 years. And we have some properties in Woody Creek that are around 60 years old. And so our idea behind this is what we're investing in, and if we should be thinking about alternatives for how to address mobile homes, because it's in some ways a completely separate issue. And I've seen instances in other repair programs in Colorado where they have a separate program for mobile homes even. So we're just bringing up, like, should we be treating these mobile homes differently, especially just because of the conditions of them? Some of them, not all of them.
So I've voiced my opinion, but I'll say it again. I think that these, we're talking $10,000. These are, to me, micro repairs. They're getting that mobile home down the line for however long somebody's going to live in it again. I mean, ultimately the goal should be to replace all of these, but I don't think you should. I mean, I have a guy that bought a pre-HUD home. So what? 1975 is pre-HUD. You know, nobody would finance it for him, but he's dropping $100,000 into this unit to fix it up. It's going to be almost a brand new mobile home when he's moved into it, but because it has a label on it that says, you know, when it was built, you know, VIN number. You know, so a lot of people have dumped a lot of money in these mobile homes to make them last. I'm sure there's a lot in Woody Creek. Some have pulled out and built modular, but I don't think you should limit, because these are just, to me, micro repairs. They're repairing something that life safety and living matters.
Okay, so support from John.
To not change it.
Yeah, not to change it.
Right.
Or not, I mean, to.
So not limited by
Not limited
age
by
of
age.
mobile home. Yeah.
Right.
You know, some of the inventory is 40 years old. I could see maybe moving it to 40-year-old mobile home, but 15 years. There's a lot of inventory that requires repairs that's 15 years or older. So to signal out mobile homes and say no if it's over 15 years, that doesn't seem fair to me. Because I agree with you that people they're living in them and they're planning to live in them and they're putting in these repairs so they can continue to live in them. So, you know, unless we look at in the future having a separate repair program for mobile homes, or to change that to 40 years old or something substantially longer than 15.
Well, your intent was just to not throw good money after bad, right? But I think these repairs are going to make, they're just to limp this thing along for a little bit longer or something.
Yeah.
You're just nice.
So what I'm hearing right now is to not change the policy.
Well, no, I appreciate your guys' thought, but.
I agree with John on this.
Okay.
Peter?
Thanks. I don't mean to go backwards here, but just so I can understand this holistically, the intent is to maintain the condition of the APCHA units of the inventory and the life safety of the owners. Let's just say you gave every owner the ability to make these repairs interest-free, and then they pay it back on the sale of their home with their cap increased, whatever it may be. The owner is just electing to have a better quality of life and maintain their unit. Let's say it's the windows on the mobile home unit sooner rather than when they sell the unit in the future, which to the community, I guess repairing the windows sooner in this example helps save other repairs and further deterioration. But is there any way to kind of put this in the hands of the owners where they say they elect to make the repairs and have an interest-only loan, and it makes the whole equity of that unit for the community whole?
I think that's a great program, but that's a whole different program than what we're doing today, right? I mean, I think that's something we should vet, see if there's funds available to do that. I think Manaus does that at some point down valley out of Carbondale already. I seem to remember 10 or 15 years ago, I had a loan on a property that they did that with a guy. But I think that's a whole different kind of program, Peter. Because I agree, I think that's a great carrot too, some kind of incentive. Maybe it can't be no %, maybe it's got to be AFR rate or something, but to incentivize people to actually make these repairs, and it's an affordable thing.
Yeah, as long as they pay it back when they sell the unit.
Yeah, or pay it along the way too, right? It becomes a deed on the property, it would be subordinated to probably primary debt, but something gets paid back and funds the program for perpetuity.
Right.
Allison?
So Liz, it does sound to me like what it says on the slide that we should consider alternatives. I think, again, since there's not this massive run, we still have about half the funds left. I'd hate to restrict it in this go round and not have that ready to go. So I'd be very open to hearing ideas like Peter's or others flushed out before we put this into effect. I am like, if you live in a mobile home, even if it's kind of expired, but you're in the APCHA workforce, you and your family are part of the community, and you have drafty windows or whatever it is, your chances of getting something else, like entering every single lottery and being picked and being financed and being moving is your other alternative to having some sort of support for like less drafty windows every winter. So to me, I when I read it in the memo, I was all for it. It totally makes sense to not be putting 15 grand of public dollars into something that maybe 5 years from now, the entire thing's going to get scrapped. But because of the humanity, I guess, of the people in here, if they're willing to put a little into and have that quality of life, and we don't have an alternative for all those reasons, I agree with the room there that this can wait.
Thanks, Allison. Kelly?
Maybe I thought I heard something different. Is the board leaning towards not adopting a policy that would benefit mobile homes? I thought we were trying to equalize it for folks who are, category 1, 2, 3, 4, being able to do the similar repairs.
No, I think
That's where I'm.
Ward and I are, and we don't want to limit it to 15-year-old or, it's everybody, right? Mobile homes you're living in. I mean, It's 10 grand, Allison, but it's,
So it's the same as it gets rolled into like the category qualification, not the type of unit.
yes.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing right now is that we won't adopt this. We're going to still allow mobile home of any age to apply for the program.
Yeah, I'll just plant a seed here that perhaps we have some kind of condition that the repair is granted, that the unit will still pass the standards of APCHA for a resale. If it's not going to match the standards for resale, then putting a lipstick on a pig isn't going to work.
Won't that require them to go do an inspection and everything else?
I think it's something that beyond the scope of this evening's discussion,
Yeah.
but just a seed.
Yeah.
Well, and I have to step away for a sec, but just a quick comment, there is the possibility, like a housing authority can do a loan program. I've thrown this out there in the past. It does require creation of a whole own program. You have to set up underwriting rules and things like that. But I'd be happy to tee that up for further discussion for this board. There is funding outside of the city and the county at the state level to fund that type of program, but it's not without its own administration.
Does that fall under, because does it fall under HMDA rules and everything else? Because it's primary residence related, or you get away from that because you're a nonprofit housing authority?
I haven't read the similar underwriting rules, but I know that housing authorities in Gunnison and Delta County have done this.
I'm just thinking disclosures,
I'm sure.
decisioning, timing,
I'm
whatever
sure it
else. The CFPB likes to have their hand in everything. So.
All right, so it seems mobile home's still eligible. That's all we have for policy recommendations. So just next step in the program. So we're still accepting applications. With these policy changes, we're going to do another rollout, get it up on the website, and go from there. And as we go, we'll keep assessing and reporting on the program. And it says closing grant applications once around 3/4 of funding is allocated, but instead I'll say more assessing it, just making sure we're not promising more grants than we have available. And right now, for all the approved grants, it does seem like most repairs will be done by May 2024. So we'll have a more well-rounded idea of the program impact by then, since just with contractor availability and to when a lot of these repairs can happen too. So that's all.
Cool. Thank you. Okay.
I just had one general question on this. So next time you come back and report, what would be a way that we could measure ROI on this program, being that our properties aren't appreciating, in real economic circumstances? But I would love to have some way of, like, when the press release goes out that this was successful, of having some numbers that show it was successful. So like, how much money is this keeping in the APCHA system, allowing homes that wouldn't have sold for full price now to sell for full price. I'm open to any suggestions, but some sort of, like, how was this able to support the quality of the system? What was our return? We spent, the 10 grand per person, but that kept 20 grand per unit of value in the system, or something like that.
Well, I think, to me, the measure, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but the measure is the equity invested by each category, bar or beneficiary. I don't know if you can really measure what it would have sold for, because most of these units are going to sell for list price anyway, right? But it's more about, hey, we've helped 50 homeowners, and they had to drop in anywhere from 10 to 40% in each one of their units, and we made these repairs, is what I would think, right?
I like that. Yeah. So for the 300,000, actually $500,000 went into
spent.
repairing it.
Yeah.
Something that would be a great metric.
Diane.
Thanks. Just something I realized as you're all talking, and thank you for that great discussion. This will have to go back to the two funders, the city and the county, because of the programmatic changes. It'll be hopefully just a simple element, but it is their discretionary funds, and just a heads up on that. Thanks.
Well, the real programmatic change is just the category, right?
Yes.
I think that's the largest program.
I mean, we didn't, you were proposing limiting to 15-year-old trailers. We're going to open it up to category and units by their category.
Also, I think the mobile home is substantive.
Except no policy change with the mobile homes though.
Yeah, there's no policy
Oh,
change
sorry.
there.
I missed that. Sorry.
Okay, good to know. Thanks, Diane. All right. And Allison, once we actually have completed, gotten farther into this program, we can get to that stage of reporting as well.
Okay, let's move on to the review HOA capital reserve study bid and approval of
I just make a
resolution
motion that we pass it. You probably have great slides, but.
Yeah, my only question on this was, do you have to get the buy-in of the HOA to do the capital reserve assessment?
Yes.
So, I mean, you're going out and
HOA
getting
has to
active
agree to
participation,
do
right?
Yeah.
They need to opt in.
That'll be,
Yeah.
next step will be,
And this is one we're sending an inspector around
once you
looking
guys approve this, we'll be reaching out to the
incognito.
the HOAs to start that process immediately. And this, we had a lot of back and forth with the one company who bid on this. So,
And then ultimately, what are we gonna do with it?
we are going to analyze it and put it around to the funding bodies to see what they want to do with it. This is the first step.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, what are we gonna do with the data once we get it,
That's,
right?
That's
we're
up to
gonna
the
summarize it and
HOAs
figure out
to
what,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
So
up to the
HOAs
HOAs.
gotta
Can I
buy in.
interject before we get too far?
Kelly.
I'm sorry. I just want to offer, I think that we should properly present this item. Right now, I know we know a lot about it. I know we're excited to move this forward, but I do think it really would benefit the community to understand, the city and the county in our joint meeting last summer, came out of that meeting universally agreeing that this was a top priority, APCHA universally agreeing that this is a top priority, just kind of explaining how we got here and what's going to happen ahead. I think it would be a great benefit for the community.
I do have a couple slides, but it's really just a summary of the proposal we received and that's,
Okay.
So we can run through those quick and also address the question. Because I think in the slide too, we'll even kind of talk about what the end product is of these capital reserve studies as well. So there's only a few too. And then we can move to the resolution. So today we brought resolution to approve the contract with RD3 to conduct capital reserve studies for HOAs under the APCHA regulations. HOAs that'll be eligible would have to have a majority probably of deed restricted units depending, and then also they have to have multifamily. So properties that have an HOA but they're all single family home units would not be eligible for the program. And so that's what we based our RFP off of those types of HOAs. And so as Matthew said, we received one bid from RD3, but we found it to be a perfectly acceptable bid. They've worked on City of Aspen properties before. They've worked with APCHA before. They have experience doing building assessments and capital reserve studies. And we also just noticed when we did a pre-bid meeting with them, they're really willing to shape their proposal to meet our needs, especially because this was a really unique project. When I looked out to see, it's like, okay, what other capital reserve assessments like this are happening out there? And I couldn't find anything. So that was really great. So as Kelly said, so I'll just run through just the project goals, scope of work quick, timeline, and what the funding is looking like as well. So for you all, but also for the community so they understand. So the project goals, first of all, so conducting full capital reserve studies for HOAs, so all buildings, additional elements. We don't don't really know, like not all HOAs have done capital reserve studies, or it's been a while. It's been since 2011 when APCHA did this as well. So this is an opportunity for us to step in, and we're going to pay for all the costs for the HOA capital reserve studies as well. And then our other goal is that we'll have then data from these HOAs. We'll understand where they're at right now, where they need to be, and so that way we know what that gap is. And then the third part with that data, our goal is that this consultant will create a plan for HOAs to help them get back on track, but they'll also talk with us about where the HOAs stand and where they vary. And that way we can deliver it to council and BOCC from there.
I think what I would, Kelly, I think you're a great point. I think what I would stress is by getting these studies completed, what it's going to allow APCHA to do is to work with the city and the county to address, potentially address some of the issues that are identified in these. And being that it's limited to 40 HOAs, I think the benefit for an HOA in doing this is that if they're one of the initial participants in this reserve study, were there to be a pilot program similar to the one that we've got in place now that would be for an entire HOA, I would see this as being a priority to the people who initially participated in this study, because they're already going to have it done. They're already going to have the needs identified. And really, I think that's the benefit. And, I don't see this in any way allowing APCHA to come back to an HOA and forcing an HOA to do anything. It's really just it's an information for the HOA, and it's roughly a $3,000 to $5,000 expense that the HOA is not going to have to outlay, and it's going to help them identify potential issues in the future and avoid hopefully large special assessments.
Yeah.
I have 3 questions.
Yes.
Page 10 for budget and financial, it mentions the city of Aspen as a county co-funding this.
No.
It's just the city.
No,
Oh.
neither. This is coming out of APCHA money.
And the APCHA money is co-funded.
No.
This is
This is APCHA's money. This is from their 632 development fund. The city has nothing to do with it. The county has nothing to do with it. This is APCHA-controlled money.
Operations are co-funded.
Yeah.
Right.
But it says it'll need to be approved
Yeah,
by Aspen City Council.
under the IGA.
Understand?
Under the IGA, APCHA has to follow the city procurement standards, and so you do, and we had this discussion with finance. We disagree with them, but we will defer to them. So they do want it to go a resolution approved by the city council, and they do want it on the spring supplemental, but it's not city money.
Okay.
So it's a bookkeeping bureaucratic thing, but and that's to follow under the IGA, the procurement requirements.
Okay, question number 2 is on energy assessments. CORE has been doing those for no cost to the homeowner. How does their level 2 energy assessment compare to the energy assessment that CORE will deliver for free?
Well, we're not doing energy assessments for this. We decided not to opt into that because we are sticking to just the baseline capital reserve study, and just how much the energy assessments would increase the cost of the project as well. So I do know CORE is looking to work more with HOAs and multifamily living. So hopefully by us not paying that cost, they'll have that opportunity with CORE in the future as well.
Yeah, I thought the energy audits were part of the scope of service.
Yeah, originally, but just looking at the cost of it, that ended up being for a A.P.C.H.A level 2 energy audit. We didn't think we should opt into that.
Okay, so although it says energy audits are included in this, it's not included?
There's no energy audits. It's just this is just baseline capital reserve studies for the properties.
Okay, I saw on page 41 that it's listed there.
In the original RFP, we brought it up, yeah.
Okay, and then my final question is, are we being penny wise and pound foolish by not opting into some of these optional scope? And if there's value to the HOA, perhaps they should pay the additional money for opting in.
Like offer them a laundry
Right.
list of
Yeah.
items.
Yeah.
We could maybe work with RD3
Yeah.
and HOAs and be like, hey, would you like to opt into, since we're covering the baseline, would you like to opt into this since we're covering the 3 to
And that was-
5,000?
That was definitely part of the discussion, and you know, as we work with the HOAs, we can facilitate any other options they'd like to pull out with the vendor. Yeah.
Okay.
And then back to your first question, there is a resolution for this going to City Council on the 23rd. So it's on the consent.
On the
agenda.
Haven't
consent.
seen that packet yet.
The
Yes, but just so you know,
consent
it is
calendar.
coming.
I understand. Our consent calendar takes an hour.
Yeah, but we'll also be at work session the day before, so we can also
Yeah.
bring it up then. And so this covers what the consultant is doing in these baseline capital reserve studies. So reviewing the existing conditions, and data. They'll do on-site assessments and then do the gap analysis for here's where you are now and here's where you should be, and also how much it'll cost to get to the standard. And then also working with HOAs for corrective action planning and prioritizing where they need to first focus their energy.
I think 4 and 5 are really important.
We emphasize
right?
that
'Cause
in the
that's
process.
Education to the HOA,
Right.
it's education
We will.
to the
We
board.
in our discussion, as Liz said, in our discussions with them, we really laid that on thick.
Yeah, that was a really important part, is working with the HOAs afterwards to help them have a plan going forward and giving it to
So
them.
I kind of get what we're going to use the data for, but, you know, I've got some bullet points here. You know, are we going to grade HOAs based upon their assessment needs? Like, you know, so we have an understanding of where our HOAs are?
That's
And
that's
then the other one
that's
is, are
phase
we
two.
going to disclose this to the buyers of these units within these HOAs?
To me, it's public information.
Well, I mean, I think it should
So
be
the
disclosed
HOA
so
will own
buyers
it, but
know
we will
that
own it
it's
too.
wide open, like
They would
these
have
other
the right
things
to
that
it.
need to be
Yeah.
replaced, fixed, taken care of.
Right, right. To me, they would have the right to this. I
Yeah, I
don't think
think-
it's gonna stop anybody from buying something, but
That's true. too.
they'll know what they're going, they will
Centennial's still
understand what they're going into.
So potential buyer should have access to this.
I mean, as they do, you know, if they request it, any other public available HOA information.
Yeah.
Right.
Allison.
I don't know if mics aren't on or what's happening with that, but we're not really catching it over here. Liz, is this your last slide? I'm not trying to.
The last thing I was going to cover is just a brief timeline and what we kind of already talked about, which is where the money is coming from.
Before we move on,
Then I do want to jump in with a couple questions. This can fund 40 of 80 HOAs. So what's the process for deciding who gets to be part of this?
So the reason that we selected 40 is because there are 80 HOAs with at least one deed restricted unit, but some of those are in an instance where they're a one-off. So they're a one deed restricted unit in a free market HOA, so that wouldn't be eligible for the program. Or some of those HOAs are properties like Lazy Glen, which has an HOA, but they're all single family home mobile homes. So the focus is really on deed restricted HOAs with multifamily homes. And so that's how we got set on the number 40, is because we looked at which HOAs fit that description. And it's also, I mean, I think we're trying to be optimistic in that in 2011, 29 HOAs participated. And so our goal was to have these 40 eligible HOAs participate.
And then, well, I mean, I think part of it in the past has been some of the requirements for updating your deed restrictions. What's the catch right now for HOAs to take advantage of this?
This is a service, right?
it's free. Yeah.
If they're not updated, will they need to bring their entire complex up to?
I mean, we're assuming they want to know.
Right.
You know, I mean, we're assuming they want to know the situation their home is in, so we're providing an easy way for them to do that.
Is it required that they update their deed restriction to opt into this program?
No, we didn't include
We
that.
did not include that. So-
Okay, great. That was the question. So there's funds for anybody who wants it, who qualifies. We can cover everybody.
Qualified HOAs
Right.
based off what type of HOA it is, yeah.
And if
And
we
then-
get more than 40, I'd be more than happy to come back and ask you guys for more money.
That'd be amazing.
Okay.
Second round of funding.
Yeah, that's too bad about the low participation in the past, but I do like it that there's not a catch in that regard this time. It is a mission of ours, but I wonder if that will bring in a little bit more participation. And will our new HOA liaison be part of this? Is that something that's going to be
Yes.
up and running?
If, that person, when hired, will be taking over, in my view, a lot of this work from Liz, because she's done a great job, but the actual executing of the program will fall on this new person, over the coming months and years.
If
Is that
Centennial
job
comes to us
posted?
and wants one of these, are we doing it?
We would.
Yeah.
Centennial? Okay.
They didn't opt in
I'm
the
not
last
following,
time,
but-
so it'll be interesting to see if they opt in this time, but.
Kelly.
Is that job posted?
No, I'm rewriting the job description. I'm working with HR. I want to make sure we have what we wrote in the summer, but I'm revamping it to make sure we capture anything. And I'm talking to HR, and we'll be getting that up as soon as we can. It's not posted
Great.
yet.
Thank you. I do think we talked about, and I would love to see some conversation with RD3 for further discounts for, as Ward say, if anybody wants to up into that level 2, or I know there's some programming after the assessment that they're able to help with. It'd be amazing if we had some sort of program to stick with them. HOAs had a 10 or 20% discount if they move forward with their next steps of service. So I would love to hear if that's a possibility, and I'm very much in support of this resolution.
Kelly.
Thanks. Will part of the review of existing conditions do a qualitative analysis of the HOA board or structure? I mean, it would be really helpful to know, like, this HOA has the same 3 people who've been involved for 20 years. Nobody runs for election. They only meet once a year. I don't like stuff like that. I think would be really helpful to understand as we set the kind of repair needs in a context of like, who are the stewards of these HOAs?
Mm-hmm.
Well, each HOA is going to have a point person, no matter what. This wasn't part of the scope for them to deal with the HOA and whether the HOA is being effective or not. I think that most of the HOAs who are going to be part of this program are at least going to have some type of effectiveness because they want to do this. But whether it's the same people, I mean, some of the smaller HOAs, you're going to have the same people time after time because you have just you have a small HOA. So it's not really grading the HOA. I can't imagine us asking RD3 to do that. It wasn't part of the scope. It's questions that we can ask
I want
them.
to anticipate next steps, which could very well be like discussions about how do we fund all of this, and I anticipate that some criteria related to that is going to be, let's put resources towards the organizations who we know are going to follow through, I don't know. It's just, I would anticipate it. It'd be helpful if we can supplement this at some point with greater knowledge about who we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. And that might be for the person that we're hoping to hire. Mm-hmm. We'll start to have a really good rapport with these HOAs, and we'll be able to provide us information with regards to that.
And I mean, Kelly, I think the answer to that, I mean, the effectiveness, I think, is going to be, it's going to be determined a lot by the budget and the gap between the budget and the, whatever comes up as a identified deficiency. I would add on when we do send the email out on, assuming this passes, I'm supportive of this. Assuming this passes and we do send out some sort of a communication on this, I would like to do just make sure we include like an FAQ and position it of, am I going to have to be, update as a result of this, and answer those questions, those sort of that people can just easily forward out to the HOA, and when they opt in.
Definitely.
Give an HOA the tools.
Yeah, give them the tools to combat some of the questions they're going to get.
Yeah, and we'll work with, if and when the contract's approved, we'll work with RD3 on how to reach out to those HOAs initially. And maybe it'll involve even calling some HOAs and being like, you should participate if you, yeah. Okay, so just quick, I'll just run through timeline and funding and then go to the resolution. So this is just it's very general. As we flesh out the project with RD3, you'll have a better idea. So right now we still are in the approval of the contract, which final one will go to City Council on the 23rd. And we extended the project timeline so that way we don't have delays due to weather. So on-site assessments probably begin late spring, and then the project should be completed by the end of August 2024. So in the resolution it states it's up to $170,000 for the project, and that accounts for around 40 HOAs to participate, which that number then might change depending on participation, but that's built into the contract as well. And as Cindy talked about earlier, so it's coming out of APCHA's 632 Development Fund. And so it's APCHA's money, so that's why we're approving it via resolution here. But since the city of Aspen oversees our budget on that side, we still have to go and have the contract approved there. So that's it.
Any other questions or motions?
We need to vote on this.
We do need to vote on this, right? Yes.
You want me to, I'll motion for approval, review, let's see, I'm trying to see how I want to word this. I motion to approve for approval resolution number 1, series 24 appropriating funds from the 632 APCHA Development Fund up to but not exceeding $170,000 for capital reserve studies for HOAs within the APCHA program who elect and are approved for such a study to be conducted by RD3.
I'll second.
You ready for roll call?
The roll call vote.
Okay. Allison?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Carson?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. No further items on the agenda.
I move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn from
Second.
Ward and a second from John.
Okay.
And it's
Okay.
roll call.
Ward?
Yes.
Carson?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you
Meeting
very much.
Adjourned, 6:01.